Cre8tive should not have stopped the podcast. It was perfect. Like everything that we were just talking about, I was like, yeah, this could literally be like a second episode, part 2.
Part 2 being filmed now.
Also your mic is really good, by the way.
So,
I
yeah,
appreciate that. The last guy I had, unfortunately, didn't have a mic or like headphones or anything, and it was like you heard all of the the room noise, the background noise. It makes a big difference. You good?
Yeah. So I bought one mic, and then my team's like, Mo, you need to buy this mic. It's the best mic. It's for work. I'm like, sure.
Is it called Shure? Is it the
Yeah. How
Shure
do you
mic?
know? Yeah.
Because I spoke with I guess like a podcast production company, and they gave me tips. They actually showed me how to use this like app called Riverside to record and everything. And I didn't like end up moving forward with them, but I just like got a bunch of knowledge in the hour that I spoke to them on like their sales call. And they're like, get the Shure mic. And I was like, okay. I didn't actually get the Shure mic myself because it's like $400 or something crazy.
So there's the
And I
big
was
one.
like,
There's the big
yeah,
one,
the
and
big
then
one.
there's this. This is the lavalier mic. I think this. I don't know. Because I bought one mic and it was, I bought it because it was a long wire. This one's pretty short. And the other one was like iPhone, so it's like so I could record in my content. And then guys like, no. Like one day he's like, Mo, film this really fast. Something happened. I forget. It's like film. My son is like, what's this mic?
Oh yeah, there you
And
see the
then
difference for sure. I have these little like Bluetooth ones when I like talk it to like classrooms or whatever. I just clip
yeah.
it and it connects and it records the audio onto my phone.
But I never knew like how important like now like I feel
Audio, yeah.
everything's going 10x like the importance of sound. Then like the headphones when you're wearing these type of and people's like well these prices it makes a huge difference like the sound quality how it clears it like I think
You
with
know
the
what's
show one but
cool?
yeah
I hear myself like in my headphones too, which like I never knew any of this, right? When I started the
yeah
podcast, I was like, I don't know. I just bought a whole bunch of equipment. The first 2 podcasts that I recorded with a guest, I actually had a second wire coming out the other ear connecting to my computer, thinking that like I needed to have both connections. But anytime I would speak, there was this like crazy feedback, and I just kind of dealt with it. So this is the first podcast. Imagine I like recorded the whole thing and like it didn't actually record my voice.
oh my god
I
that
would
would be
die. I would die. I did do like a little test at home, but anyway, so like I think I finally got like the setup right. And it's the thing is you have to like click the little things in the settings and just like make sure that I don't know, like all the right things are checked off. But yeah, no, it's a
yeah there's a
funny
whole
process.
learning yeah exactly it's a learning process it's like oh
Yeah.
what's this mic what's that here they had but I'm like you I'm like so curious like here they
Yeah.
rent out a podcast room so the one I did before and then they have a technician that does everything so you just go in with your
Yeah.
they have all the cameras and all the mics and everything and you go but like with my marketing team when I film my content like oh no sure and then you have like this whole audio thingy I don't know what it's called like it's where you output the like it filters out the audio or something I
Right.
don't know
I know it's I don't I barely know too. I'm just like
and
figuring out.
I'm like guys what's wrong with just plugging it in there he's like no you need this I don't know is this a synthesizer or something I should ask him what the word is so it's like so I got into that then we got into the lighting but what was cool is about like seeing all that like
Because
something
he was
from
in a
just like
studio,
hey
this guy,
what's up
right?
how are you huh
Yeah, he was in a studio. Like you went to an actual podcast studio.
yeah so that one was an actual podcast studio but then I have like
Cool.
my marketing team like we have our like when we create our content so like our equipment so it's like okay like this is no good
Mm,
mic like you're talking about get the Shure get the lavalier to do it and it makes a difference so one of the
yeah.
things with the Shure is like I'll be talking in the mic the other $400 one there the big one and like you can have someone like talking in the background they won't catch it it's crazy like I didn't know like there was like
Yeah.
mic technology to this level and like how important it is so it's
Yeah.
we've come a long way that's from just taking your phone and just saying hey what's up guys this is what's going on too. You got to
I
get this
know.
mic get this brand and everything
Yeah, that's cool.
you know
Anyways.
that's with the
Okay.
equipment but yeah no I was saying like with the podcast thing it's just like it's very similar to like the whole DJ booking thing and it's just like how to find the right mix the right people to connect again I still have that love of bringing people together I still have it I just don't know like how to in what environment it's not obviously nightlife no more
Hmm.
but like with like I said the podcasting is just how you can learn from different people um, gain knowledge gain like experiences and you know just gain different ways of thinking and it's like the other podcast I did like he's very big in YouTube so I have a lot I can learn from him from YouTube how to
Mm.
build a page and everything so It's just different experts in different worlds
I know it
that go
doesn't
into
end.
life.
It really
No, it
doesn't
doesn't
end.
end, but it's like there's a lot of knowledge. Like it's like it's I think like I always told myself if there's one thing you would teach, like what is it? It's like the way of thinking. Like
Mm,
how should a person think? So I think you would only know that after you've spoken to so many high level educated people, successful people, and learn how
yeah.
to go about things. Um, so I think like that's why I always want to say is like that's what I think is phenomenal is that when you said, "Oh, mom, I'm doing a podcast," I'm like, that's the list I know. She puts it in her mind, boom, done, 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 done. Like you're laughing like it's normal, but like I've dealt with so many people that like, "Hey, mom, I'm going to do this," nothing happens. "Hey, mom, I'm going to do that," nothing happens. "Hey, mom, I'm going to do this," nothing happens. And then
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's funny. It's funny because you know what? I was actually talking to someone over the weekend. I was in Montreal and I like hung out with one of my friends and a bunch of her friends that like I didn't really know. Like there were some that I kind of was acquainted through her, but never really sat one on one. But we were like at Mount Royal, just like chilling in the park, having like a little picnic or whatever. And I was in town visiting because Ryan was there for a bachelor party, whatever. Besides the point, but like this girl that I was talking to who like I didn't know too well, I was just kind of telling her like what I was up to and what I was doing and how I started this podcast, blah blah blah. And she said something like, wow, you really just go for it, huh? Like you really like you have your an idea and you just do it. And I'm like, she's like, how do you do that? And I'm like, I just do it, like just do it. And she's like, yeah, but some people have like a really hard time just starting and like getting something done. And I think like the biggest shift for me has been like the perfectionist in me that I've kind of let go of, because it's like if you want to be perfect all the time and you're constantly looking and nitpicking, you're never going to finish. You're never going to get to where you want to be. It's never going to be perfect. Like the name is never going to sound right. The colors are never going to be perfect. It's like just pick. Just pick, make the decision, and like it's not going to change how successful you are in your journey of like how many people are going to listen or how interested people are going to be, because like the green is a little too bright, like no one gives a shit.
people don't remember. It's so true, and
Yeah.
it's so true, and that's the thing is just just like you just jump and go, and like people, it's like it's in your head, and like people, a lot of people is like, do you think we cared about this or this or this? And a lot of people, it's even it was one of the books, the Lean Startup, that they were talking about it, like where it's like they're trying to perfect the software, and then like people end up liking other things, and like you were
Hmm.
talking about before, like your equipment and how you're setting it up, and it evolves, goes back to like it's like the last point you're saying, just do it, and then the practicing part. So it's like, okay, how
Yeah.
do I do it better? How do I do it better? But you got yourself like you jumped, you went in,
Yeah.
so just you're doing
Like
it, but like
even with the podcast, you
you're
listen to the
focused on
first
it.
episode, it's bad. Like the first episode, it's like everyone's like, oh yeah, it was great. I'm like, okay. Like the p's were like loud when I laughed, like I cringed my ears. It's like I'm aware, but I still did it. And I was like, the next episode I was like, yeah guys, like I know it wasn't great, like whatever, I'm learning, like we're gonna fix it, we're gonna make it better. And that's just it. You just kind of like roll with it
But
and
where
figure it
does this
out.
ideology come from?
For me to do
No, in
to be that
general, it's
way.
not from you, bro. It's not from you. It's more like it's where does the ideology of anyone, whenever they try something, is supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be
Hmm.
like it's supposed to be at this caliber of whatever X is.
Well,
Like
I think there are two different people. Like, there's the one that doesn't care at all, and then the one that maybe cares too much. And it's about kind of finding that balance in the middle, because there is a certain level of care that needs to be had. Don't get me wrong. Like, I build brands with my team for a living. So we do pay attention to detail. We do care about like the color, this and that. But at the end of the day, you have to make a choice. So, like, I think it comes down really to decisiveness more than anything. And I've been very indecisive in my life. And like running a business has made me way more decisive, because it's like, yeah, how are you ever going to move forward? Like you have to move forward to get things done, and the only way to do that is by making a choice and making a decision. And so I started to apply that in my stuff too, because it's like if I can feel frustrated if a client is unsure, on the fence, or needs more variations and this and that, it's like, okay, well, first of all, you don't need to present seven options, you present two. Don't give them too much to think about. So it's like if I'm looking for something too, and like mind you, I have a different mind, a creative mind, that I'm able to see something and dissect it differently than an average person, like from a visual standpoint, let's say, or a marketing standpoint. But it's really just like making that choice, and like kind of knowing it's like, okay, this feels right. Like what it's just such a fun exercise when I was
no,
like building my personal website or building the mindfulpreneur artwork, like all of those little things. it just kind of flowed. And I was like, this looks good, or something looks wrong, or how can we fix this? And then at one point you're kind of just like, all right, this is what it is. Like the headshot that I'm using, for example, I used a headshot that I had. I didn't go and like reshoot because I was like, I want to launch this thing in a week and I don't have time to reshoot. I've been using this headshot on like my LinkedIn profile and whatnot, but you know what? It works and I'm going to use it. And like, is it the end of the world that I didn't do a whole branding shoot specifically for my podcast? No, no one cares. You know, like I'm just going to use what I have and roll with it, because otherwise it would have delayed the process. And then it's the whole like perfectionist thing that comes in. What's the concept of this shoot? What am I going to wear? How am I going to do my hair? All of these little details where I'm like, just use the picture I have. Just use what I have.
Getting it done, because it's like we have that mindset.
Yeah.
Like two things I've learned out here. It's like my friends like he so to go back to the one point you said, showing too many options. I don't know if you watched the movie Air, the Michael Jordan documentary about the Michael Jordan's movie about his shoe.
No, but that sounds
On
interesting, and I
Amazon.
feel like I should.
You
It's
should
on
watch it because
Prime.
there's a lot about branding. Yeah, it's exactly on Prime, and
Okay.
there they talk about that. What you just said is just show him one. Where like a lot of other people, I ruined the movie. It didn't ruin the movie, but I'm just saying that it's a phenomenal movie.
And that's the conclusion.
But it was like they give you reasons to what you're saying, and I just feel it's like simplicity. Like it's
Mhm.
like you trust the person. Like, hey, I'm the expert. This is what's going to be good for you. But a lot of people don't have that trust. And the second thing is that like my friends, like I get a lot of my knowledge from like Nadeem. Like he's very very creative. So he creates big brands. He works like big brands like Air Canada, and like he works in it's called Emblem.
Nice.
They work on big, huge government corporate projects. So, branding strategy, vision. Basically what he says, he brings the brand to life. Like he gives like all these brands
Mhm.
lives.
Mhm.
So he built also for me, Big Moe. He built the platform. He calls it a platform. It's called Rare to Reality. So these these rare watches that is very hard to find. We bring them to reality for you. So that's the platform that we go and build on. So it's like he always tells like, Mo, don't make it a thing. He's like, you know what? And then he goes back to like, I think one of the teams like, so what? You know what? I took lemon ice cream instead of the chocolate. I messed up. It's not the end of the world. You move on.
Yeah.
Like, just
Yeah.
don't make it a thing. You just move on. You know what? But it's like sometimes I think it's a beautiful picture. I didn't know all that. See, that's the thing. A lot of times the knowledge that you have, you think everyone else has. I didn't
Mhm.
know this was your LinkedIn profile or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's one thing, but it's just like, and that's where I go. I'm like, you know what? So the person doesn't like me. The whole world is not supposed to like me. So what?
Mhm.
Like, just don't make it a thing. Okay, this happened. Move on. Like you figure it out. Like it's like I don't know. Like everyone makes like it's like there's things that I really like. We know when we were talking before, I'm like, have fun is because when I was building Venue Gene, a lot of people's like, one of my friends like, Mo, when's the last time you had fun? I'm like, I
Mhm.
had fun building Big Moe production. I'm not having fun building Venue Genie. It's so stressful, constant learning, and not succeeding. And it's like,
Mhm.
well, number one, the next thing I do, I want to have fun in it, laugh,
Yeah.
enjoy it. And then number two is just it's like just getting the things done. Like you go and you get things done, and you just like it's a learning process that you just like the first watch. I'm not gonna make. I think I made like $100, $200. Like you're not gonna supposed to hit like my first event is not supposed to have 5,000 people outside the door waiting.
Yeah.
So you got to start somewhere and then build on that, and then you grow slowly. So it's a lot of times like I said, that knowledge is what you have, but it's like now how do you grow it? Like to me, it's always like, okay, how do I grow? I think that's where my brain stops. Like in terms of I don't think it's perfectionism. It's more like I look at like 5 steps ahead. When I'm like, okay, well, how am I going to grow this? Like I was telling, like I love podcasts. I like doing it, but I'm like, how do I get the right people? How do I do it?
Mhm.
And I think the reason why you do a lot of things very well, very fast, is because you understand the elements and components that's needed to build something. So if it's
Right.
a salad, you know what? Like example, your agency. Okay, I need a like you're doing an art director, creative art director. I don't know. There's levels to that. I didn't know that. So you have all these other like account managers. They do this. They can handle this much clients and all these things. So once you have those, the right elements that is needed to create something, or the tool or the software, and you go out and get that knowledge, then you're able to create. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't look for that knowledge, or
That's a good point.
try to learn from someone else. So that's why I always like to learn from like-minded people. It's like, hey, I want
Mhm.
to learn, I want to grow. let me go build that. So that's why like what you've done with the podcast and everything is for me is like, I'm like, she put it in her mind, boom, it's going, it's rolling. Okay, this was good, this was bad, this we have to adjust, fix this, and
Yeah.
like, but your communication is top, 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 top.
Why, thank
Um,
you.
so it's like,
Yeah. No, I mean, like you said, like you reach out to the people, and like especially when you're starting something new, like with this podcast, I have a friend that has a podcast, and so I called her and I said like I would love like 30 minutes of your time to just pick your brain, blah blah blah, and so we talked. I got the information that I needed. It's honestly very very simple to like get things off the ground, and then from a creative standpoint, brand standpoint, like I know how to do that. That's my company, that's my business, that's what we do. So like that was pretty easy. And then it was just a matter of like going live. And when you're talking about like the right people and stuff too, it's like I knew like the essence of the type of people I wanted to talk to, but like where they come from, how old they are, what they do doesn't really matter to me. I think it's more so like the mindset that I'm chasing than anything. And you start with your circle, you start with your network, and then eventually it grows and becomes something greater. Hopefully that's the goal. So like even with you, I'm sure you have an incredible network of people that, I mean, who knows if they would agree to be on the podcast. That's another story, because that's another hurdle, right? It's like you want to be respectful and not like force people or make people feel like forced to be on, but at the same time you kind of have to nudge them and encourage them a little, because otherwise they might not come. But then it's like this, like I hope that maybe you felt a little resistance at first, and then I nudged you and I was like, hey Mo, like don't forget, fill out the form so that like you can
yeah,
come
the
on. And
form.
then next week, look at that, next week you're on, and now look at us, we're done, it's over.
Yeah, no, that it's so simple that I'm like, okay, Mo, just get it done. So it's like I look at it as like, okay, Mo, you got to get this done. But for me, it was more like I want to do it like I want to take the time to, because I saw there was a process to it. So I'm like, okay, let me go in and
Right.
follow the process and everything
Mm-hmm.
for it. I was also like, it was like crazy busy. So it's
Yeah,
like okay, Mo,
of
do this, Mo,
course.
do that, Mo, do this,
Of
Mo, do
course,
that.
you
Like
can't expect everyone to just like react and
no, but
you know
it's good because it's like sometimes you're doing something different refreshes the whole like I wouldn't say it's a break, but it's like you're refreshing. So it's like okay, this is something different. This is not
Mm-hmm.
something you do every day. So it's like okay, and it's also like I said, I think a lot of people just don't reflect back. Like we did a lot of nostalgia conversation
Yeah.
today about
Yeah.
so many things, and it feels nice. Like you look like you're smiling at all those like amazing times, and like it's I don't know. To me, it's there's no words to describe it. It's like just we're living life to the fullest, and it's something different. But it's more like just getting that task, like getting it done. I'm like, okay, this is a form. Let me fill it out. I'm
I
like,
know, a little bit of
I'm
admin
like,
to
this
be on
isn't
this
Alyssa
podcast,
thing
to
to
be
do.
honest.
No, but
Sorry.
I liked it. I liked it, but I'm like, no, because I'm at the same time, I'm like, oh, because like I said, I loved the whole podcast. Because the whole podcast was similar to like when I was booking DJs. So I'm like, if I would do this, like how is she doing? So I'm like, okay, boom, she's like, I'm like, okay, first she's filtering out everyone, then she gets the okay, then she's doing this. So I'm like learning, like remember I was telling you like the elements and the steps. So I'm
Yeah.
following the steps as I'm going through the steps.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, she's doing this. I'm like, okay, cool. And then it's like, then I'm
Yeah.
like, well, because it happened once. One person said to me, we got into a heated conversation. This is a question for you, and this
Okay.
is, he's like, why do you want to be the best? I'm like, I am the best and I want to be the best. I strive for the best. If I do it, I do it. If I don't, I don't. But that's my goal. It's like, why don't you just accept being mediocre? Or why don't you just accept like this is a
Mm.
hobby and you're doing it for fun? And then that's got to me is like a lot of times like Mo's like, you don't have hobbies. I'm like, yeah, hobbies basketball. I'm not playing in the NBA, guys. It's like it's like, you know what I mean? And it's like, well,
Yeah.
I taking this like a lot of people when they say, hey, do you do this watch thing part time? I'm like, no, full time. Like, oh wow. Oh wow. So I'm like, yeah, this is like I'm doing this full time. I want to take it as far as I can, as big as I can, and to be just be the best. Now the same thing happens when, example, Mo wants to go into when I want to go into example, let's say like for the podcast, and that's the question is like, do you think it's like okay, this is like a hobby, I'm doing this for fun, or it's like okay, I want to go take this to this level and this level because I guess at the biggest level would be the Joe Rogan podcast,
Yeah.
but it's just like how do you go from because like something also I learned being out here is like I didn't know this, but there's like there's the A-rated movies, which the Fast and Furious 58 they're going to be probably filming, and then there's nonstop. But then there's like I was looking up for like my friend because I have a lot of creative friends like, oh, do you know like Nicolas Cage for the last X amount of years or 5 years has been doing a lot of B-list movies and C-list movies. I'm like, that exists? There's a world like
Mm.
that? I'm like, yeah, there
Hmm.
is. I'm like, I didn't even know that. So then it's like, well, do you accept that you're in those lower tiers, or do you aim to go to the best? It's like, hey, I want to take this and require all this energy and go, boom, get those big sponsorship, get those things. Maybe one day I'll be forced to drink a prime drink. It has to be here. I don't know what's going to happen. Or
Yeah.
do you say like, hey, this is for fun, this is good, as long, or do you put like, hey, I need to at least film one a week or one a month? Like, how do you go about?
You're
Those are a lot of
talking
questions.
specifically for like the podcast, you're saying?
Well, no, podcast or like even
In
your
general, how I
agency.
approach.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
like you were talking before, like, you want to start a family and everything. Is like, well, do you
Yeah.
want to keep it at like a boutique,
No.
or you want to go boom big? So it's
No,
like,
it's
okay,
it's it's gonna be a multi-million dollar company, and I can assure you that.
no, I don't worry
It's
about that with you. That's for
it's
sure. You always
annoying.
get it done. You put it
It's
in your mind, it happens. That's for sure.
exactly. But no, that's literally what it is. And like people can call me crazy. And I started saying it out loud in the last, I want to say 6 months, because when something is like internalized, like that does nothing. Like I'm putting it out there, it's happening. We are working towards it. My whole family knows, all my friends know. If someone asks me, I will tell them. I'm not gonna, you know, dim my light or my potential to make people feel comfortable, because it does make people feel uncomfortable knowing that like I have these goals, and like, I've had eye rolls even, from my family, where it's like, okay, like call me when you get there. It's like, I will fucking call you when I get there, and like proudly, because I believe that I can do it. And like for me, I think it's like less of a timeline thing and more of like a knowing that it'll happen. I do have somewhat of an idea of like when I would like to get there, but I've also decided to kind of remove the pressure of like what that timeline looks like. Because there are so many other factors in life that can pop up, and like I don't also want to like create an unrealistic timeline to then lead to disappointment and whatnot. So we were talking earlier about being flexible and rolling with the punches. Like that's really what it is about. And with my business in particular, so I had launched Nomad Cre8tive in 2018, pretty much alone. Like I had people listed on my website as my team, but they weren't really doing any work or supporting. It was kind of just like a face like for the company, to say
Mhm.
like, hey, we have a team, but like really it was like Alyssa who was everybody.
I think
And
my picture was up on there by
no
accident.
way, it was
I'm
not.
kidding. Like, Mo, can I
100%.
borrow your face? No, I'm kidding.
They were actually people that like were in my circle, like a photographer, a designer, whatever.
Yeah, like
um
freelancers you would use.
yeah, exactly. And I still do. That's still like the premise of my business. It's like a hybrid between a like a typical agency and freelancer. So it bridges the gap between the two. But anyways, all that to say is that so from year 1 up until year 5, we've doubled in business every year organically. Never spent a single dime in advertising or marketing, and it was all done by word of mouth, by reputation, collecting Google reviews, SEO on our website. And now I have a filtering process. So we get a lot of inquiries. And when they do inquire, one of the questions that's mandatory for them to answer is where did they hear from us? Because that's not something I used to track before. And now I track. And the majority of it is Google search, surprisingly, because I still don't pay anything for that. But this year, you kind of get to a point where like organically to continue to double, it's like, oh shit, like that's a big like job, and I also didn't want to like sit back. Like I could have, but I chose not to. So it was a conscious decision to say like, you know what, like I have funds in the company, I want to reinvest back into the company. So I hired a paid media team. We're currently building out email funnels that connect to a landing page, that connect to ad campaign. So once we start running those Google ads, we're hoping to kind of see that traction. And obviously the goal is to have a return on that investment and then help bring the business to the next level and scale. So that was a conscious decision that I made, and not for anything. Like I live a great life. I love my life. I think I have a wonderful lifestyle. I'm able to travel. I'm able to like buy myself the things that I want. Do I purchase $5,000 bags on a daily basis? No, but that also doesn't bring me joy. And it's not necessarily just about that, right? Like I'm a pretty simple person. So like I have my house, I have my dog, I have my family and my husband and my friends. And like I like to go to dinner, nice dinners and host people and like travel, and that's really it. Like that's all that I need. I don't need to be in first class every single time. I don't need to be in the 10-star resort every single time, and like I'm really content with that, you know. Um so I'm kind of just like doing it because why not? You know, like I'm motivated. It excites me. And
Right, it's
there's
'cause you're
no
growing.
one telling me that I shouldn't or couldn't. Like, why not? Like, let me just do it. You know, that's it. I have no reason.
No, but it's good. The reason I'm saying is because you're evolving. So he's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm at this, and it's like I also find, I think a lot of entrepreneurs can say that it's like they have a sixth sense. Like, let me try this. I think it's time to do this because it's
Hmm.
funny because like before I was doing ads here, and I'm like, guys, I don't want to do ads. We got to do content. Like it's content. It's not ads. And I'm like,
Hmm.
guys, nobody's gonna see. Oh, here's an ad. Let me buy a $20,000 $30,000 watch. It doesn't work this
Yeah.
way. I have to add value. So so you just know what to do, as an entrepreneur. But like it's like, okay, well, how can I add this to like you're saying, okay, we built everything organic. This is what it is. Okay, let me go with the ads. Then you just double up and level up and grow in different ways.
Hmm.
And probably with your networking and getting other contracts for sure. I'm not worried that you're for sure gonna get there. So how about like with the podcast? Like, how do you see it? Like, do you still have that? So, example, I feel like we're both the same when it comes to our primary business. So, I'm saying
Hmm.
something like example now with the podcast. Do you
Yeah.
still see it that way, or are you able to say, okay, you know what, this can we put it in the middle, or no, we gotta go, we
Yeah.
gotta go like
So
this, and then because if you gotta go like this, you have to insert the same amount of energy.
yeah. So my intention with the podcast first and foremost was for like personal gain. To learn from other people, to like gain access to other people's like thoughts and ideas and experiences. One thing that I've found in my journey of entrepreneurship is that like it can be lonely, and I haven't necessarily had like real mentors or people that can kind of guide me or support me or that I can look up to. And a mentor doesn't necessarily have to mean someone that is like, you know, making more than you or further along on a track than you, but like, you know, sharing a similar mindset to me is really enough to learn from somebody. And then of course, like all of those elements will help. So like if you're at a different phase in your business, I can ask you questions on what you've experienced and what you've dealt with, and maybe that will prevent me from making that same mistake, right? Like I have only learned from the mistakes that I have made. And if I can expose myself to other people's mistakes, then like I'm I'm skipping a step, you know, like I'm able to make sure that that doesn't happen with me by learning through other people's mistakes. And so kind of like talking really openly and honestly about that. Like I love entrepreneurs who are just honest about their experience. Like why are you going to pretend and sugarcoat like you have it all figured out, like it's fine and dandy? Like yeah, maybe sometimes it is, but like there are challenges, there are things that you failed at, and like you would be lying if you said that you've never failed to get to where you are today. Because I mean, at least from my experience and from everyone that I've spoken to so far, like failure is literally what defines your success and where you've grown and like how you've gotten to where you are. You know what I mean? So to kind of like jump back with the whole podcast thing, I really got off track there, right?
Huh?
I really feel like I really got off track there. But like in terms of like my intention with the podcast, that's what it started off, was just to like have that I guess like personal knowledge, personal gain. Not to say that at the back of my mind the end goal isn't to eventually monetize, because I'm a business person, because that's my mind, that's how it works, you know. Like I want to build these relationships, I want to learn from people, but at the same time, as much as like I'm learning, I'm hoping that whoever is listening and who's going to help grow this podcast is also learning. So like I want to do my best to like ask the right questions and like really bring value to people in that sense, like through conversation. I think that's the best way for people to relate, is through that storytelling and through that conversation. And it's a lot easier to do talking with someone than like talking to yourself or talking at somebody, you know? So I think
Yeah,
it's
because
just
I
like a
find
really
it's a
cool
huge.
platform. Hmm.
Yeah, like a lot of people, every entrepreneur, I'm like, a lot of times, even people do the business decisions of not being alone by
Hmm.
getting the wrong partner, everything. Then, my sister's like, would you rather be alone or be with the wrong person? A lot of people do that in business too. Like they're with the wrong person and they're like,
Yeah.
because I don't want to be alone. And then they have to carry that burden. So I understand what we're talking about. Um, I think when I left Dubai and I went back to Montreal and like, got my own place, I think that's where I conquered that, like being like loving being alone and be like,
Yeah.
it's just it's because when I was younger, I always asked people, everyone like, what was your biggest fear? And I was like, alone, alone, alone. So I'm like, I
Mm.
guess that's the first thing I need to conquer is that, because once you do that, then you know how to become fearless. But I like the like what you said, like learning, like you know, like one of my other friends, he calls me out of nowhere. He's like, how's your business? This is that. It's like, oh no, you should, for marketing you should use HubSpot. I'm like, dude, what's HubSpot? I'm like, I learned about HubSpot before, but I'm like, how are you gonna, what does HubSpot have to do with watches?
Right.
And then he's explained to me, you could connect this. I'm like, dude, this is way too much knowledge that you just drop it like this. So now it's like on my to-do list is like, okay, learn about HubSpot, how to evolve. So even sometimes, like we were talking about before, like when you don't know, you don't know. Like I don't know, you could do this and you could track this and you could follow up and do these things.
Exactly. Yeah. What you don't know, you don't know.
But you don't. That's the thing is like, but you have that mind of being flexible. So when he said
Hmm.
it, I had an open ear, and then he likes that. He's like, well, Mo, problem is very easy. I could. That's so easy. I could solve that. You don't have a lot of moving parts,
Hmm.
you know. So I'm like, I never thought of that. So it's like, okay, well, how do I go into HubSpot? Maybe this is the element that's gonna change how I see things and able to build and grow and scale to what I want to look at because I have that overview.
Yeah.
It's like McDonald's, like they were when they started, like they didn't know they're a real estate business, but it wasn't for that lawyer that went and told them that he wouldn't know.
Yeah.
So like even while he was doing it, a lot of people, you don't know what you don't know. So I think you always have to have that open ear of doing that. And yeah, the thing is, which I don't know, maybe someone could come and create social media, but for failures in terms of like all the failures, like showcase your failures and get like, I don't know, not promoted, but like social media right now just shows like all the best and like, oh, he's living the life, or like even I get it the worst when it's like, oh, he's in Dubai, he's living XYZ. And they
Hmm.
don't know that like I probably went through more, like the growth I've done in 1 year, I didn't do in like 10 years in Canada.
Right.
And it's like it takes a lot, like it takes a huge toll on you when you go through that. So it's like you're saying about the failures, it's just like, you know, before, like I was preparing for the podcast and you were telling me, it's like, you know, those lists, and I was just writing down all the things I had and put my mind in. And similar like you, was like, okay, execute, Mo. And I've executed on all of them and I've failed at them, but failure is not quitting.
Yeah. No, it's not.
So my mother, and this is the thing, is that like a lot of people, we talk about, hey Mo, you failed your father's class 3 times, but I passed on the fourth. Why aren't you talking
Hmm.
about that?
Hmm.
You don't talk about the passing on the fourth part, do you? You don't talk about that, hey, I got my degree, I didn't drop out. I know so many people that dropped out. I didn't quit.
Hmm.
And then after, my father's like, well, you're a proof that the system, the university system is a flawed. It's like, I don't know how you got your university degree. I'm like, Baba, mindset, I got it. I don't know how to use the system. It's like, I don't know how you did it. So
Yeah.
it's like to do that, but there's a huge difference where it's like, that's why the reason I asked you that question about the podcast, because like when I start something, I can't just, I don't know how to be mediocre. I'm like, okay, I have to have all the right, I call them weapons. Like when I say weapons, meaning like all the right pieces, all the right places. So I'm like, okay, boom, let's go and build. And when anything happened, I shouldn't say, it's more like team. What's the right team to go and build something like, okay, let's build a podcast, or even like when I was doing events, or like even my other companies when I was doing it, like built the right team when I was flipping the house. But sometimes it's not the right team, and then at the end, you know, you do succeed. Like even that's another thing. If you're born, like you have that little quit DNA in you, like that house that I was flipping, if I would have quit long time ago, halfway through it, I probably would have lost everything
Hmm.
um, through that. So it's like it's very 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 difficult to just not quit, just to like I, you know, there's 1,001 videos on Instagram. I think Steve Harvey says, like, you know, if you're going through shit, like just keep on going through it. Like, why are you stopping in the middle? So
Hmm.
it's like I go the analogy of, like, you know, you open a bag of chips, finish it. You open a water bottle, finish it. Stop opening 50 and
I
just
I
not
reseal my
figuring it
chip
out.
bags.
Huh?
I said I reseal my chip bags, but I eventually will finish them.
But you finish them, but it's not open. And then it's like, oh, I don't like this. Open another one. Oh, I
And
don't
then
like
you
open.
throw it out. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Exactly.
learn, like there's like Venue Genie. I learned everything. I'm like, wow, everything I learned from Venue Genie, I'm executing here in the watch business, building my
Yeah.
second phase of my business. I'm like, I didn't know this could be possible.
I
And I'm
think a
like,
big thing is like absorbing, like just always absorbing anything, any information. So, like, part of the podcast too, it's like I'm also absorbing everything that you're telling me, right? And like, there's only so much we can absorb every day with like how much content it gets thrown our way, right? So, being intentional and like choosing to speak to specific people and then choosing to absorb this type of information and interaction, like that to me is very empowering. Like, how cool that I'm eventually going to make money off something that literally fills my cup, that's going to benefit other people, that is sharing
Win-win.
things that are like beneficial for like the world, for culture, for society. Like, more people need to talk about this shit. I mean, they probably already do. There's a bazillion and one podcasts out there, but hey, you'll hear it from me too.
No, but it's different because like they don't do it with your voice. It's again,
Right.
I
That's
watch a lot of
true.
Steve Harvey,
Yeah.
or I don't know which one. The person's like when I was creating content, I'm like, well, everyone's doing this. How am I different? Well, I'm like,
You're
well, your
you.
voice.
You're
Yeah, but
you.
you're you, your voice, your
Mm-hmm.
interaction, the way you talk, the way your analogy. Maybe like someone has told me something 10 times, it doesn't hit. Then that 11th person, boom, it hits, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's actually for that reason, because you hear something 1,000 times that like, and all that content. Like I remember when I was doing nightlife, I was calculating it. I had to like, we call it touch points for sales. It's like I had to 3 touch points
Mm-hmm.
to get the person to come to the event. So I'm like, hey, we're going on. It's like, hey, do you need a lift? Hey, like, what do I have to do to convince you to come to the event? Now we're at like 7. Like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't make sense. Like maybe, who knows? Maybe one day one person's going to click on this podcast, listen to it, see an Instagram post, see, I don't know, like I said, on Google or something, see another Instagram reel, someone reposted it, and then it's like, oh, I'll inquire. Then I'm giving information. Sees another Rolex on Rolex website. Then, oh, okay, I'll purchase from Mo.
Yeah.
And that's what's crazy. It's just all these different touch points that you have to do. But I like the podcast. Like, it's funny, when I went on my first podcast, it was like I was telling the host, I'm like, it's crazy we're here. He's like, why? I'm like, because my father always told me everything goes around 180, like in terms of fashion, market, and everything, like understanding. And I'm like, here we are back to the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes I'm like, wow, it's crazy how we're going. Like it's the 180 now. It's like to get your attention. It's like it's no longer like, it's like about listening to other people's personal experience, and it's like you relate to them, but you relate to them differently. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the fun, cool part. But it's more like, again, what I like about like what you're doing is just like your intentions are clear. I think you've always been a person, you know what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like your intentions are clear, you know what you're doing, and then you're able to build on that. A lot of people just don't know what they want. They're just copying the next person in front of them. It's like, oh, they seem
Mm-hmm.
happy. Let me copy them. Let me copy this. Let me copy that. And then it's more like, hey, what are you doing? And does it make you happy? And that lesson I learned from my sisters, like, what do you want? What I'm like, yo, I don't know what I want. And
And
then
that's a
once you,
big thing. It goes back to you. It goes back to you, right? Like, what makes you happy, what fills your cup, right? Because if you can't figure that out for yourself, you can't provide that for anybody else.
but that's what you have to figure out yourself, though. So that's why
Yeah.
it means like I love Dubai. Like other people, like when you came to visit, you and your sister's like, no, we don't like Dubai. I'm like, okay, that's
I didn't
cool,
say
but
that.
well, it
Who
was
said
kind of
that?
boring. You didn't like it, so you're coming here
No,
then.
I never said that. I never said that.
You,
I mean, I think she likes it more than I do.
someone didn't like it. It was either you
It's
or your sister. I don't
no,
know which one.
no, I don't think either of us didn't like it. If anything, I was maybe less like partial to the experience than her. But don't forget, like that was the year that I was in like a new country every single month. So
Yeah, I
I was
remember.
comparing it to like all of my other experiences that I had. It's just like I'm an adventure girly. So like throw me like in the desert, on a camel drinking tea. Like I didn't have that experience when I went to Dubai. We were like a lot more around the city and
It
whatnot.
was,
So
was hot, man. It was like in July or something, June, July. You want to go
no,
in the
no,
middle of
no,
the
no,
desert?
no, no. It wasn't. It was.
It
It
was
was
May?
like. It was like January or something.
No, 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 no.
Yeah. Yes.
It was.
Yes.
I don't
Go
remember.
back. Go
I'll have to go
scroll
through our
back on
pictures. I have.
Instagram. Yeah. Scroll back on Instagram and you'll see. I'm sure about it because we did like Dubai and Hong Kong around the same time, and I think like one was in January, one was in February. We did like two big flights back to back. This is back in the
Oh,
day when I was still working with Air Canada as a flight attendant.
okay,
My good
maybe.
old days.
Good days. I
Not
don't
so
know why I
long ago,
think
I
it's
feel,
yesterday.
but what a sick job. Anyways, okay,
Nah,
Mo,
it
I
was
feel
funny.
like
The
I've
jump.
like eaten up a lot of your time. So
No,
I
it's
love you
been
and
a
I
lot of
appreciate
fun.
you. And like, thank
Love
you
you
so much
too.
for
Thank
coming
you.
on. I feel
Keep
like
on
we
doing
should
what you're
probably
doing.
like touch base again in a few months and be like, what's going
We'll,
on?
we'll catch up. What's going on? What did you do?
Where,
How's
yeah,
HubSpot?
exactly.
Where's the
Exactly.
podcast going?
Wait, you're going to start yours, right?
I'm not. I mean, that's the thing. The reason why I
It's
asked
on
that
the
question is
list.
because I have this obsession. I just can't do something like, okay, let me do it for fun. I just I have to assemble, like if I do it, I'm going to have to assemble a team and just do something.
You don't have to, but maybe that's a challenge. Maybe that's a challenge for you, is that you don't have to have a whole team in place. Unless you
I'm
like
trying. I
really
don't know
hate
how.
everything. But the thing is, right now I'm technically doing everything on my own. It's so simple. Like this app that I'm using to record, it exports the snippets for you. It does all of that.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like eventually going to have my team post like the social stuff and like YouTube and all of that. But because I'm just starting out, like I said, I like to kind of do everything on my own before giving it away. And it's also fun for me. Like this is a fun little thing, and I have time, so why not? But you're
Maybe you'll
probably
show me the
busier.
ropes. We'll do another.
Yeah,
You have to book a little consultation.
it's easy. It's so easy. I'd be happy to, like, someone did that for me. I'd be happy to return the favor. It's
All
all
right.
at your fingertips.
Sounds good. I'm excited then. So maybe I will start a podcast. We'll see.
Okay, I'll hold you to it.
No, 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 no. Yo, come on.
Okay, I
You
won't
just
hold
haven't
you to it,
see. I won't call
but
my.
I will
I call myself
cheerlead.
out. This
I
one.
will. I'll be your cheerleader. I'll be your cheerleader should you choose to move forward with it. How about
I
that?
will. I will get a secondary host, and I'll think of something. But
A
now
secondary host. Oh,
I'm.
that's
I'm not.
interesting.
I'm not good. You're a very good host. I'm not good with these questions. I'm a
You got to
good
prepare. You get there. Like you said, you learn, you practice, 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 practice.
using my
Look
own
at
words.
that. Full circle.
This is how we're ending this. Okay.
We're going to
Okay.
end this. I'm going to stop our recording. Bye, guys. I'm
Uh,
probably going to put this live as like an extra little part 2 snippet, exclusive Big Moe, Alyssa, one on one. Yeah. Thanks, guys, for listening.
ciao, guys. Thank you.